Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something powerful. Men don't chase every woman they meet. They chase the one who moves differently, the one who doesn't beg, doesn't plead, and doesn't bend her worth just to be seen. She's not playing games. She's living by rules that most will never understand. She doesn't run after love. She attracts it. And when a man realizes he can't manipulate her peace or buy her attention, that's when the chase begins, not because she's hard to get, but because she's impossible to forget. And ladies and gentlemen, there's something magnetic about a woman who carries herself with a quiet confidence, a woman who doesn't need to chase, beg, or convince anyone of her worth. Men are drawn to her not because she plays games, but because she lives by a different set of rules, rules that make her stand out, that make her unforgettable. And when she applies these rules, she becomes the kind of woman men chase, not because she's elusive, but because she's rare. And the first rule is that she values her time. She doesn't give it away freely just because someone shows interest. She understands that her attention, her energy, and her presence are gifts, not obligations. When a man meets a woman like this, he feels something different. She's not available to every text, every last-minute plan, or every breadcrumb of affection he throws her way. She's intentional. She invests in people who show up consistently, not occasionally. And that's what makes her irresistible. She creates space for him to prove himself. And men are wired to pursue, but what most people don't realize is that pursuit isn't about playing hard to get. It's about creating value through boundaries. When a woman respects her time, she sends a silent message. If you want access to me, you need to match my energy, not drain it. That's not arrogance, it's self-respect. And that kind of confidence doesn't intimidate the right man. It inspires him. He wants to rise to meet her level. He feels a sense of purpose in showing up for her because she's not easy to win, but she's worth it. And the second rule is that she communicates her standards without apology. She doesn't demand, she simply demonstrates. Her actions tell the story before her words ever have to. If she values consistency, she becomes consistent herself. If she values respect, she gives respect. But she also walks away from anyone who can't meet that same level. She doesn't wait for someone to change. She adjusts her direction. She doesn't nag, she doesn't beg. She simply aligns herself with what she deserves. And men notice this immediately. A woman with standards stands out in a world where too many people settle for almost good enough. When she refuses to compromise her core values, a man feels something powerful. He feels challenged, not in a way that threatens his ego, but in a way that activates his desire to be better. She doesn't ask for perfection, she just expects effort. And because she expects effort, the right man gives it willingly. And there's a subtle beauty in how she handles situations that would make others crumble. When someone disappoints her, she doesn't lash out or chase clarity through endless conversations. She simply steps back. Her silence becomes her statement. She understands that walking away with grace is louder than arguing for validation, and that silence, that calm, confident withdrawal, creates curiosity, reflection, and respect. Men don't forget a woman who knows when to walk away. And the third rule she lives by is that she invests in herself relentlessly. She knows that her happiness isn't dependent on anyone else's behavior. She builds a life she loves, filled with purpose, passion, and peace. She's not waiting to be chosen. She's choosing herself every single day. When she does this, she becomes radiant. Her energy shifts. She's not chasing love. She's attracting it. Because a woman who's fulfilled within herself doesn't need a man to complete her. She invites a man to complement her. And that's what makes her unforgettable. Her joy doesn't come from attention. It comes from alignment. She's too busy becoming the best version of herself to sit around wondering why someone isn't calling or committing. And ironically, that's when men start chasing her hardest. Because her independence doesn't repel, it intrigues. She's not running after love. She's living in a way that love naturally gravitates toward. And when a man sees a woman like this, he senses that she's not an option in his world. She's an opportunity to experience something real, something rare, because her self-investment radiates confidence, and confidence is the most magnetic quality anyone can possess. She's not asking, do you like me? She's asking herself, do I like how I feel around you? That shift in mindset changes everything. And the fourth rule is that she practices emotional control. She doesn't let her emotions dictate her worth or her decisions. She feels deeply, yes, but she doesn't let feelings lead her into chaos. When someone pulls away, she doesn't spiral. When someone disappoints her, she doesn't crumble. She takes a breath, she steps back, and she chooses her response carefully. That kind of emotional discipline is power. It's not coldness, it's composure. And men find that intoxicating because it's rare. In a world where reactions are instant, she is intentional. She doesn't let her emotions be manipulated by inconsistency. She can love deeply and still protect her peace. She can care without losing herself. She can miss someone and still move forward. That balance is what makes her unforgettable. She doesn't cling. She calibrates. She knows that her emotions are valid, but she also knows they're not instructions to chase what's running away. And that's the kind of woman a man can't shake. She becomes the one he thinks about long after the conversation ends, the one he can't stop wondering about, because she's not trying to convince him. She's embodying something greater than approval. She's living from a place of calm assurance, and that's rare energy in today's world. And when she lives by these rules, she doesn't have to prove her worth. She doesn't have to chase. She doesn't have to over-explain. She simply exists in her truth, and that truth becomes her attraction. A man who meets her realizes quickly that she's not like the rest, because her standards aren't rooted in pride, they're rooted in peace. She's not difficult, she's discerning. She's not distant, she's selective. She's not unavailable, she's unattached to nonsense. And men feel that. They feel her energy shift the room. They sense her boundaries without her needing to announce them. They recognize her confidence, not because she's loud, but because she's consistent. Her value doesn't need validation. It's evident in how she carries herself. She doesn't chase attention. She commands it. She doesn't wait for someone to choose her. She continues choosing herself until the right person recognizes her worth. And that's what makes her unforgettable. That's why men chase her, not because she's playing games, but because she's mastered herself. She's living proof that the most powerful attraction doesn't come from appearance or charm or strategy. It comes from alignment, from knowing who you are, what you deserve, and refusing to settle for less. And the truth is, when a woman applies these 4 rules, valuing her time, communicating her standards, investing in herself, and mastering her emotions, she no longer has to chase love. Love finds her. It recognizes her calm, her confidence, her depth. It sees that she's not trying to be chosen. She's imply being herself. And that's the most magnetic energy there is. And because when a woman truly understands her worth, she stops negotiating it. She stops explaining why she deserves more, and she starts living like she already does. Her standards become her compass, guiding her toward relationships that match her frequency. She doesn't need to threaten to leave. Her consistency in honoring her value speaks louder than any ultimatum ever could. That quiet certainty in her presence, that calm energy that says, I'm good either way, that's what captures a man's mind and heart long after she's walked away. And see, men are not chasing drama, they're chasing peace. And the woman who lives by these rules embodies peace in a way that feels magnetic. She's not trying to outshine anyone. She's not competing for attention. She's radiating self-assurance from within. And that energy, that stillness mixed with strength, makes a man question everything he thought he knew about connection. He starts realizing that what he feels around her isn't adrenaline, it's admiration, it's respect, it's the rare comfort of being in the presence of someone who doesn't need him, but chooses him. And this woman doesn't rush connection. She allows it to unfold naturally. She understands that emotional depth takes time to build, and that chemistry is not commitment. So she doesn't mistake attention for intention. She knows that words are easy, but consistency, that's where truth lives. She listens more than she reacts, observes more than she assumes. And because of that, she doesn't fall for potential. She responds to patterns. That emotional intelligence is what separates her from the rest. And when she meets a man, she doesn't think, I hope he likes me. Instead, she asks, do I like who I become around him? That simple shift in perspective gives her power, because she's not chasing validation, she's protecting her energy. She's evaluating whether this connection adds to her peace or disrupts it. And when it disrupts it, she's not afraid to walk away. She doesn't take it as rejection. She takes it as redirection. She trusts that every ending is simply clearing space for something more aligned. And then that trust makes her fearless. She doesn't fear losing anyone who isn't meant for her. She knows that letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. She knows that sometimes silence speaks louder than explanation, and that distance often reveals what words try to hide. So she stops chasing clarity from people who already showed her who they are. Instead, she gives herself closure through acceptance. That's emotional maturity, and men feel that depth the moment they meet her. And a man might not even fully understand why he's drawn to her at first. It's not just her beauty, her smile, or her confidence. It's her energy. She makes him feel both grounded and challenged. He feels safe enough to open up, but inspired enough to grow. She's not trying to fix him, but her presence makes him want to rise. That's the power of feminine strength. It doesn't control, it influences. It doesn't demand, it inspires. It doesn't chase, it attracts. And then when she speaks, she does so with intention. She doesn't use her words to impress, she uses them to connect. She knows that communication isn't about saying everything, it's about saying what matters. When she compliments, it's genuine. When she sets boundaries, it's kind but firm. When she expresses disappointment, it's from a place of calm rather than chaos. That balance disarms a man. It earns his respect because it shows she's not trying to win arguments, she's trying to build understanding. And her independence isn't rebellion, it's self-sufficiency. She's not rejecting love. She's creating a life where love is the bonus, not the backbone. And because she's not desperate for affection, she attracts higher quality connection. She doesn't fall into relationships to fill a void. Sure, he enters them from wholeness, and wholeness attracts wholeness. And a man will notice that she's not chasing him, yet he feels her presence deeply. She doesn't need to post cryptic quotes or play games to get his attention. Her consistency, her grace, and her detachment from drama keep him intrigued. She's unpredictable in the best way, not because she's inconsistent, but because she refuses to be defined by anyone else's expectations. Every time he thinks he understands her, she reveals another layer of depth, passion, and authenticity. And that's when the chase becomes emotional, not just physical. He's no longer chasing her body. He's chasing her energy, her peace, her wisdom. He starts to realize that winning her heart isn't about charm. It's about character. It's about showing up with integrity, effort, and emotional depth. And that's what these rules do. They separate men who are interested from men who are invested. And see, most people chase what they can't have, but men chase what they can't forget. And when a woman lives by these 4 principles, she becomes unforgettable. She leaves an imprint that lingers because her presence wasn't based on trying to please. It was based on authenticity. She didn't try to mold herself into his ideal. She stayed true to who she was. And in doing so, she becomes the standard he compares everyone else to. And even when she's gone, he'll remember how he felt around her, the calm, the inspiration, the challenge, the admiration. He'll remember that she never begged for attention, but still commanded it effortlessly. He'll remember that she was kind, but not naive, strong, but not hardened, loving, but not desperate. That combination is rare, and once experienced, it's hard to forget. And then this woman doesn't resent the process. She doesn't see dating as a battlefield. She sees it as refinement. Every experience, every disappointment, every heartbreak teaches her more about herself. She doesn't beg. Bitter, she becomes wiser. She learns to spot emotional immaturity faster. She learns to recognize empty words sooner. She learns that patience reveals truth. And instead of asking, why didn't he choose me? She asks, why did I want him to? That question shifts her entire mindset. Because when she reflects on it, she realizes that sometimes she was drawn to potential instead of compatibility. And once she learns that distinction, her standards become unshakable. She no longer confuses attention for affection or intensity for intimacy. She knows that consistency is the real form of attraction. And when she embodies all this, she starts to glow differently. It's not just confidence, it's contentment. It's the quiet assurance of knowing she's no longer seeking love to feel whole. She's whole already, and that's when love starts seeking her, because love always gravitates toward peace. And when a man finally meets her, he knows he can't approach her with half effort or empty promises. He senses that she's not the type to tolerate inconsistency, confusion, or excuses. He can't rely on charm alone. He has to bring character. He can't fake depth. She'll see right through it. He has to show up with genuine intent, because she's not afraid of walking away. And her detachment doesn't come from coldness. It comes from clarity. She's learned the difference between a connection that grows and one that drains. She's learned that love isn't proven by how much you endure, but by how well you align. And once she understands that, she becomes unstoppable. She's not chasing love anymore. She's attracting respect, devotion, and emotional maturity. And she becomes the kind of woman who changes the way a man loves. Because after experiencing her, he realizes that love isn't about control. It's about connection. It's not about having her. It's about deserving her. And that realization, too, transforms him. But what truly sets her apart is her peace. It's her ability to remain calm when others would crumble. It's her refusal to lose herself in someone else's chaos. It's the way she carries herself with quiet certainty, knowing that no matter what happens, she'll be okay. That peace is magnetic. It draws in everyone, not just romantically, but in every area of life. And because when a woman lives by these rules, she becomes more than desirable. She becomes unforgettable. Not for her looks, not for her charm, but for her energy. The kind of energy that makes people feel seen, valued, and inspired. The kind that reminds men that strength and softness can exist in the same breath. The kind that teaches everyone around her what real self-worth looks like. And that's why men always chase a woman who applies these rules, not because she plays games, but because she's mastered the art of being whole. And because once she reaches that level of wholeness, her presence shifts the entire dynamic of any relationship she enters. She no longer looks for reassurance in a man's attention because she already feels secure within herself. She no longer fears losing someone because she knows she can never lose herself again. And that security, that calm, unshakable peace is what draws people in. She becomes a mirror for maturity, reflecting back to a man the parts of himself that want to rise to meet her. And there's something magnetic about a woman who no longer confuses attachment with love. She can care deeply, but she doesn't cling. She can be affectionate, but she doesn't lose her independence. She can open her heart, but she knows how to close the door when respect leaves the room. That kind of strength isn't loud, it's steady. And when a man feels that steadiness, he realizes that she's not a temporary thrill. She's a lasting force. She's the kind of woman who challenges him to grow, not because she demands it, but because she inspires it. And she's learned that the power isn't in chasing, it's in choosing. And she chooses from a place of undance, not fear. She no longer asks, will someone love me? Instead, she asks, who is worthy of the love I'm ready to give? That single question changes everything because now she's evaluating based on alignment, not anxiety. She's looking for someone whose actions match his words, someone who sees her not as an escape from loneliness, but as a partner to build with. And then when she meets someone new, she doesn't lose herself in fantasy. She stays grounded in reality. She observes, she listens, she pays attention. She doesn't build a castle out of compliments or mistake temporary chemistry for emotional depth. She knows that time reveals truth, so she gives it the space to unfold. Her patience protects her. Her discernment shields her from disappointment disguised as desire. And that wisdom, that slow, steady approach, makes her stand out even more in a world where everyone wants instant connection. And a man can sense that she's different. He can feel that she's not measuring his worth by how much attention he gives her, but by the quality of his consistency. She doesn't need grand gestures. She values reliability. She doesn't crave constant communication. She values emotional presence. She doesn't need promises about the future. She values effort in the present. And when he realizes that she's not impressed by superficial charm, he steps up his depth, because for the first time, he's met a woman who makes him want to give his best without her ever asking. And she understands that the right man will never be confused by her standards. He won't call her too much for having boundaries or too distant for protecting her peace. He'll respect her balance of softness and strength. And because she knows this, she doesn't shrink herself to fit someone else's comfort level. She refuses to dim her light just to make someone feel brighter. If her confidence threatens so, Mione, she knows that's a sign, not a problem. She doesn't take it personally. She takes it as confirmation that she's outgrown the kind of love that demands her silence. And then she knows the difference between loneliness and peace. Loneliness says, I need someone to fill the space. Peace says, I'm content until someone adds value. That's why she no longer settles for attention that doesn't come with intention. She's not afraid of being alone anymore because she's discovered that solitude is where her power grows. In the quiet, she's met herself. She's learned to love her own company, to celebrate her growth, to nurture her passions. That self-connection makes her radiant. And a man who meets her senses that she's not waiting for him to complete her story, she's already living a full one. He realizes that he's not the main character in her life. He's a potential co-star. And that realization changes how he approaches her. He knows he can't disrupt her peace without losing her presence. He knows that half effort won't keep her interested. He knows that games won't work because she's not trying to win. She's trying to connect. And she brings balance wherever she goes. Her energy isn't chaotic, it's calming. She doesn't gossip, she doesn't compete, and she doesn't waste energy proving anything to anyone. She's mastered emotional intelligence to the point where her silence speaks louder than most people's shouting. When others react, she responds. When others chase closure, she creates it. When others lose themselves in relationships, she finds herself even deeper. And yet, despite her strength, she's not hardened. She hasn't closed her heart off to love. She's just become more selective with who she gives it to. She's learned that love without boundaries leads to burnout. So she loves with clarity now, with discernment. She knows that the right kind of love doesn't drain her. It refuels her. And because she's built that foundation within herself, she can give freely without losing balance. And when she laughs, it's genuine. When she speaks, it's intentional. When she listens, it's with presence. She's not distracted by the noise of approval or the fear of being misunderstood. She lives by authenticity, and that authenticity is magnetic. People feel safe around her because she's real. She doesn't need to pretend to be perfect. Her vulnerability makes her even more powerful. She's not afraid to admit when she's been hurt, but she doesn't live there. She uses pain as a teacher, not an identity. And that's what makes her energy unforgettable, because she's not performing, she's evolving. Every setback she's faced has shaped her perspective, refined her patience, and deepened her compassion. She no longer blames others for her growth. She thanks them for showing her what she'll never tolerate again. That emotional maturity radiates from her without her saying a word. And a man might not even realize it at first, but he finds himself thinking about her when she's not around. Not because she's trying to manipulate his attention, but because her authenticity lingers. The way she listens, the way she holds space, the way she moves through the world with grace and self-respect. He remembers that because deep down he knows he's met someone rare, someone who doesn't demand love but deserves it. And then as she continues walking her path, she doesn't measure her progress by who stays or who leaves. She measures it by how peaceful she feels when she's alone. She knows that the right people will never require her to betray herself to keep them. She trusts that love built on truth never requires her to shrink. That kind of faith makes her unstoppable, and her power doesn't come from control, it comes from surrender. She's stopped trying to control who loves her, when it happens, or how it unfolds. She's learned that real love isn't forced, it flows. It finds her when she's too focused on growing to go search, and it shows up quietly, respectfully, and naturally. She's learned that the most beautiful relationships happen not when you're desperate for love, but when you've learned how to live beautifully without it. And then when that love does arrive, it doesn't feel like a rescue. It feels like a reflection, because now she's only capable of attracting what matches her own vibration. She's attracted peace because she's become peace. She's attracted effort because she's embodied self-worth. She's attracted honesty because she lives in truth. And every step she's taken, every tear she's shed, every lesson she's learned, it's all built her into this version of herself that no longer settles, no longer doubts, and no longer chases. She simply is a woman in her power, a woman in her peace, a woman who knows that she doesn't need to be chosen to feel valuable. And that is exactly why men chase her, because she's not chasing them. She's living, she's thriving. She's loving herself so fully that anyone who enters her life must love her on the same frequency or fall away. She's not proving anything. She's not performing. She's simply existing in her truth. And that truth, that raw, radiant, unshakable truth, is the kind of beauty that leaves a mark on everyone who experiences it. And because the moment she chooses to live in her truth, she unlocks a new level of peace that no one can take away from her. She no longer waits for validation. She no longer seeks permission. And she no longer apologizes for her boundaries. She's realized that love is not proven by sacrifice. It's revealed through alignment. She knows that she doesn't have to lose herself to be loved deeply. The right love won't ask her to shrink. It will celebrate her expansion. And that realization changes everything about how she moves through the world. And she doesn't chase attention anymore because her energy naturally commands it. She doesn't try to convince anyone of her worth because she lives it in every decision she makes. She knows that the way she treats herself teaches others how to treat her. So she keeps her standards high, not to intimidate, but to inspire. She's not waiting for someone to show up and make her feel complete. She's already full. Now she's just waiting to meet someone who can meet her at her level of peace, effort, and self-awareness. And that's the beauty of her transformation. She no longer moves from fear. She moves from faith. Faith that what's meant for her will recognize her. Faith that she never has to beg for something real. Faith that walking away from the wrong things always leads her closer to the right ones. She doesn't cling to what's uncertain because she trusts her own intuition. That quiet trust in herself becomes her superpower. She's no longer fighting to prove she's lovable. She's living like she already is. And she has learned that being selective isn't arrogance, it's protection. It's the recognition that her time, energy, and emotions are precious resources, and she refuses to spend them where there's no reciprocity. She doesn't invest in potential anymore. She invests in consistency. She's not impressed by what someone says. They all say something. She's impressed by what someone does and keeps doing. She's not drawn to chaos. She's drawn to calm because she's lived through the storms and she's learned that peace is the ultimate attraction, and men feel that difference. They can sense that she's not performing for approval. She's not trying to impress. She's just being real. And that's rare. That's what makes her unforgettable. She doesn't manipulate attention. She magnetizes it. She doesn't force connection. She nurtures it. She doesn't chase closure. She creates it. Everything she does comes from a place of groundedness. She's no longer reacting to the world. She's responding with the purpose. And then when she enters a room, her energy speaks before she does. It's not loud, but it's commanding. It's not desperate, but it's undeniable. People feel safe in her presence because she's at peace with herself. She's no longer trying to control how others perceive her. She's simply focused on how she feels within herself. That authenticity draws people to her effortlessly. She doesn't have to prove her worth because she embodies it. And she's learnt the art of detachment, not the kind that's cold or distant, but the kind that says, I can love you fully and still let you go if you can't meet me where I am. That's strength. That's maturity. It's the quiet understanding that love without mutual respect is just longing dressed up as devotion. She no longer mistakes emotional intensity for emotional intimacy. She knows that true connection isn't built in chaos, it's built in consistency. And there was a time when she used to overthink every silence, every delay, every change in tone. But now She doesn't chase explanations from people who already showed her the truth through their actions. She knows that peace begins when she stops trying to decode mixed signals. She no longer personalizes people's inability to love her properly. She simply recognizes that not everyone has the capacity to meet her level of depth, and that's okay. She doesn't hold resentment, she holds wisdom, and her growth has taught her that love should never cost her peace. It should never demand her to forget her worth. It should never require her to settle for confusion. So she stays in alignment with herself, and in doing so, she naturally filters out anyone who's not meant to stay. She no longer asks, why didn't it work? She asks, what did it teach me? That mindset keeps her moving forward with strength instead of staying stuck in disappointment. And because of that, she's no longer afraid of endings. She understands that every ending is just redirection. Every heartbreak is a chapter, not the whole book. Every loss creates spar. See for something more aligned. She's learned to see life not as something happening to her, but something happening for her. And when she carries that perspective, she becomes unstoppable. And she now attracts a different kind of energy. Not the ones who want to possess her, but the ones who want to understand her. Not the ones who drain her, but the ones who pour into her. Not the ones who take her strength for granted, but the ones who honor it, because she's become the kind of woman who no longer tolerates anything less than she gives. She's not chasing connection anymore. She's curating it. She's intentional with every person she allows into her space, and her conversations have depth. Her laughter has freedom. Her boundaries have peace, and her silence has power. When she pulls back, it's not punishment, it's protection. When she stays quiet, it's not weakness, it's wisdom. When she chooses solitude, it's not sadness, it's strength. She's no longer afraid to be misunderstood because she knows that people who are meant for her will always understand her energy without her needing to explain it. And men notice that she's different. They notice that she's not impressed by attention, but by emotional intelligence. They notice that she's not available for temporary excitement, but for genuine connection. They notice that she's not addicted to the highs and lows of uncertainty, but grounded in the steady rhythm of peace. She's not chasing passion that burns fast and dies quickly. She's drawn to connection that grows slowly and lasts. And yet she's not rigid or guarded. She still believes in love. She still believes in connection. She still believes in the power of vulnerability, but now she gives it to those who earn it. Her love is softer but smarter. Her boundaries are firm but kind. Her presence is gentle but powerful. She's learned that she can be both nurturing, and discerning, both compassionate and confident, both loving and strong. That duality makes her extraordinary. And when a man experiences her energy, he feels both grounded and challenged. She doesn't control him, yet he finds himself wanting to rise to meet her level, not because she demands it, but because her example shows him what growth looks like. She's not looking for someone to fix. She's looking for someone to build with. And that shift changes everything. She's not seeking excitement through chaos anymore. She's seeking peace through connection. And she's learned that love isn't about possession. It's about partnership. It's not about being needed. It's about being valued. It's not about constantly proving your worth. It's about being appreciated for who you already are. She knows that when two emotionally mature people come together, the connection feels effortless, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. There's mutual effort, mutual respect, mutual peace, and she doesn't need to over-explain, over-give, or overstay anymore. She doesn't confuse patience with tolerance. She doesn't chase apologies that will never come. Instead, she chooses peace every single time. She's learned that walking away isn't giving up, it's growing up. It's choosing herself over the illusion of connection. And that is why she shines differently now. Her glow isn't about appearance, it's about alignment. It's the light that comes from knowing she's no longer at war with herself. It's the kind of glow that doesn't fade because it's powered by peace, not validation. She's not waiting for love to make her whole. She's already living as love in human form. And men will always chase that energy. Not because it's hard to get, but because it's rare to find. It's not the mystery of her silence that draws them in, it's the certainty of her peace. She's not the loudest in the room, but she's the one they can't forget, because her energy lingers, her words echo, her presence transforms. She's the woman who doesn't just capture attention, she elevates it. And that kind of woman doesn't chase love, she attracts it by simply being who she is,